ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಆನ್ ಕ್ಲೌಡ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತ. ನನ್ನ ಹೆಸರು ನಿಮಿಲಾ. ಸೊ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ PUC ಬಯಾಲಜಿನ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ನೋಟ್ಸನ್ನು ನೋಡೋದ, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ 3, ದಿಸ್ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್. ಸೊ male and female reproductive systems are the ones which are most commonly seen in human reproductive systems. So we have both males and females, and human beings will reproduce sexually, and they are viviparous animals. That is, the young ones are going to come out after the growth has happened inside the female womb. Now in humans, reproductive phases will start after puberty. That is, when you reach the reproductive phase. I mean, when you attain your age. In girls or boys, we see the age of puberty, which is also called the teenage. And it involves gametogenesis, the production of gametes, either male or female. And next is insemination, and again fertilization, implantation, gestation, and lastly the parturition. So insemination is intercourse or copulation, and fertilization is the fusion of male and female gametes. Implantation is the plantation of the embryo, and then it is going to grow into a fetus, and lastly it will come out as a baby. So this is the male reproductive system, which involves the ureter, seminal vesicle, glans penis, foreskin, testis, and your prostate, etc. Now this is located in the pelvic region, that is below your abdomen, and it consists of a pair of testes, accessory glands and ducts, and external genitalia. Now testis. So this is situated within the scrotum, which will protect the testis and which will also help in maintaining the temperature. So it is present outside the body, like in the scrotum, because it should maintain the temperature 2 degrees lesser than the normal body temperature. So each testis will be of 4 to 5 centimeters in length and 2 to 3 centimeters in width, and it will have an about 250 compartments called the testicular lobules, like these. Okay, so inside this the testes are going to get produced. Now testicular lobules will have seminiferous tubules, which are the sites for the sperm formation. As I told you, within this lobules the sperms are going to get generated. Now seminiferous tubules are lined by two types of cells. One is male germ cells, which will undergo meiosis to form sperms, and Sertoli cells, which will provide nourishment to the germ cells. Now region outside the seminiferous tubules is called the interstitial space. That is the outside space of the seminiferous tubules, which will consist of the Leydig cells or the interstitial cells. Now this Leydig cells will produce androgen. This is the male hormone. Now accessory ducts and glands. So they include retitestis, vasa differentia, epididymis, and vas deferens. So these are the 4 important organs. Now the seminiferous tubules will open up into the vasa efferentia, through which the retitestis is going to get connected. Now vasa efferentia will open into epididymis, which will lead to the vas deferens, and this vas deferens in turn will open into the urethra along with a duct from the seminal vesicle called the ejaculatory duct. So this is a point where this duct is the one which will help in ejaculation. Now this ejaculatory duct will store the sperms, and this will transport them to the outside environment at the time of fertilization or through your urine. Now urethra will start from urinary bladder, and it will extend through the penis, and it will open via the urethral meatus at the end of the penis. Now coming to the accessory glands, these also will include pair of seminal vesicle, the prostate glands, and a pair of bulbourethral glands. So now the secretions of these glands will make up the seminal plasma, and then these will provide the nutrition and the medium of motility to the sperms. So this plasma or the liquid fluidish medium is the one which will provide the nourishment and the sperm movement properly. Now coming to the female reproductive system, mainly involves of ovaries, vagina, the urinary bladder, and the uterine cavity, and the uterine fundus, isthmus, ampulla, infundibulum, and wholly the fallopian tubule. So now these glands are located in the pelvic region, which will also include the pair of ovaries and oviducts, uterus, and cervix, at last the vagina. So these are the 5 important organs of the female reproductive system and including external genitalia, and mammalian glands are also considered as the reproductive organs because it has no part in reproductive system, but this will aid to the child care as we involve the mammary glands will involve in lactation. So this is also part, it is not a part of reproductive system, but this will aid to the child's nourishment. Now coming to the ovaries, these are the primary female sex organs. So if a female has to be considered a female, the ovaries are the primary organs. Now this will produce the ovum and other ovarian hormones. Like I told you, androgen is the male hormone, estrogen will be the female hormone. Now they are located in the lower abdomen and are 2 to 4 centimeters in length. Now these are connected by ligaments to the pelvic walls and then to the uterus respectively. Now each ovary will be covered by an epithelium, and this will also consider the ovarian stroma. So the epithelial lining will also consist of the ovarian stroma, and this is made up of the peripheral cortex and the inner medulla. Now coming to the oviducts, so they are also called the fallopian tubules. As I told you, isthmus junction and all these ampullary junctions, all these together will form the fallopian tubes, and they are up to 10 to 12 centimeters in length and they extend from ovary to the uterus. So this is the one which will carry the egg from the ovaries to the uterus. Okay. Now part of each oviduct will lie towards the ovary in the funnel shape, and it is called the infundibulum. Okay. And next, the finger like projections are called the fimbriae. So they will have a funnel like structure. Okay, the ovaries before entering to the fallopian tubule, from here they will have an long tube like structure called the infundibulum, and then this hair like structure which will hold upon the ovaries are the fimbriae. Now infundibulum will lead to the ampulla and then to the isthmus. So this is the point where the fertilization is going to happen, and this is a narrow lumen opening which will open up to the uterus. Now coming to the uterus, which is also called the womb, is a pear-shaped organ. Now this is connected to pelvic walls by the ligaments, and this consists of the external perimetrium and middle myometrium and the internal endometrium, which will line the uterine cavity, and the endometrium will undergo changes at the time of menstrual cycle. So the endometrial layer will have a lining of blood. Okay, if there is fertilization, this blood will remain back. If not, this will bleed away. Now coming to the cervix and vagina, this connects to the uterus to the vagina, and now the cervix and vagina will constitute the birth canal. So from the cervix through vagina, and then the baby will enter the birth canal and ultimately it is delivered. External genitalia, this consists of mons pubis, the fatty tissue covered by skin and pubic hair, labia majora which will extend from mons pubis and will surround the vaginal opening, labia minora which will fold off the skin beneath the labia majora, and hymen partially which will cover the vaginal opening. Now there was a traditional rule that the presence of hymen will indicate the virginity of a girl, whereas it was proven wrong by many scientists. Next is a clitoris which will lie in the junction of the labia minora. Now coming to mammary glands, this is present in all the female mammals. Though primates or non-primates, every single mammal will consist of a mammary gland. They are paired and is glandular. They have glands, the lactational glands. Now each breast will constitute of 50 to 20 mammary lobes with alveoli which is going to secrete milk. Now this alveoli will open into the mammary tubules which will unite to form a mammary duct respectively, and these mammary ducts will constitute the mammary ampulla, and then they are connected to the lactiferous ducts, that is just behind the nipples. Now coming to gametogenesis, the testes and ovaries will produce a male and female gamete respectively, and this procedure is called the gametogenesis, the phenomenon. So spermatogenesis if it is a production of male gametes, and oogenesis in female gametogenesis. Now this is spermatogenesis, wherein spermatogonium will produce primary spermatocytes and then they produce secondary spermatocytes, ultimately spermatids, and they are going to get matured into sperm cells. So in males, the sperms are produced by spermatogonia, which is immature germ cells. Now this are present in the inner walls of the seminiferous tubules respectively, and now the spermatogonia will increase in number by mitosis. Remember, this spermatogonia will increase in number by mitosis, and now these are diploid, that is, they are 2N cells. So immature cells will be N, okay, they will be haploid. Now they are going to get converted into 2N cells, which is diploid. Some of the spermatogonia called as primary spermatocysts will periodically undergo meiosis. So this will undergo the same type of division, that is meiosis, meiotic division. Now after first meiotic division, two haploid and equal secondary spermatocytes are formed. So they are similarly going to get divided again, and these will further undergo meiosis to give rise to 4 haploid spermatids. So these spermatids will get converted into sperms by spermiogenesis, that is, these spermatids will get matured, forming the spermiogenesis, that is the sperm. So sperm head will get embedded in the Sertoli cells after the spermiogenesis, and now this is released from the seminiferous tubules by spermiation. So this is the procedure where the sperms are released from the seminiferous tubules. Now spermatogenesis will start at puberty by the action of gonadotropin releasing hormone, that is GnRH hormone, which will cause the release of 2 gonadotropins called the luteinizing hormone, which is LH, this is also present in females, and FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, this is also present in females. The LH acts on Leydig cells, and this will cause them to release androgen, which is the male hormone. This will stimulate the process of spermatogenesis, while FSH will act upon the Sertoli cells, and this will help in spermiogenesis. So spermatogenesis, Leydig cells are going to help, and in spermiogenesis, the Sertoli cells are going to help. Now this is the structure of a sperm. Main parts we have to look forward is head, neck and tail, and in head we can see the acrosome, which will consist of the DNA material, that is the nucleus. This is the one which is going to get released into the female ovaries at the time of fertilization, and then it consists of centrioles, midpiece, and then this is the mitochondria, which will provide the nourishment to the sperms. So a mature sperm will consist of head, neck, middle piece and tail, as I told you. Whole sperm will be enclosed in a plasma membrane, which consists of plasma, and head will consist of haploid nucleus and cap-like acrosome. So you can see the acrosome will be like this. So this will help in penetrating through the ovaries. Now this contains enzymes and it will aid in the fertilization. And middle piece consists of several mitochondria, which will produce energy for the motility of a sperm. So the sperm has to travel a long way, and this is the one which will provide the energy to motility. And sperms are released by seminiferous tubules, and these are transported to the accessory ducts. So this secretion of epididymis, vas deferens, seminal vesicles and the prostrates are very much essential for maturation and motility of the sperms. So to keep the sperms nourished and active and motile, all these organs are going to function in a pattern. Now coming to the oogenesis, which is female gametogenesis. Oogonium is produced, and these will produce primary oocytes, and then we have the secondary oocyte and polar body. So this will again produce a ovum and polar body again, and this ovum will finally get converted to the matured egg cell. Only one ovary is produced at a time. So ovum is formed by process called oogenesis. It will start at the time of embryonic growth, and millions of gamete mother cells, that is oogonia, are formed in the fetal ovary. So a girl will be considered, she'll have the properties of the females at the time of her birth itself. So these cells will undergo meiosis, but they temporarily get arrested, that is, they'll not come out. So they will be under prophase, and these are called the primary oocytes. Until the female child reaches its puberty, they will be as primary oocytes. Before reaching puberty, large number of primary oocytes will degenerate. Okay, and these the remaining ones, the ones which are remained, will get surrounded by layers of granulosa cells, and now the new theca called the secondary follicles are formed. Now secondary follicles are then converted into tertiary follicles, and this will have the characteristic fluid which is filled cavity called the antrum. At this stage, the primary oocyte which is present within the tertiary follicle will complete the meiosis, and then this will result in the formation of haploid secondary oocyte, and this will get matured as a tiny polar body is again produced, and this secondary oocyte is the one which is going to get matured into a ovum. Now this tertiary follicle further changes into Graafian follicle, and secondary oocyte is surrounded by the zona pellucida. Now this Graafian follicle is going to get ruptured, and then the ovary is released. This is called the ovulation procedure. Now menstrual cycle and fertilization. So menstrual cycle is a reproductive cycle in all the primates, and this will begin at the time of puberty, that is menarche. So the starting is the menarche and ending is the menopause. Now in human females, menstruation will occur once in 28 to 29 days, that is once in every month, and cycle of the events starting from one menstruation till the next one is called the menstrual cycle. So now you have your periods, and the time you have your next periods, the gap between this, the cycle is called the menstrual cycle. And during the middle of the menstrual cycle, one ovum is released, that is ovulation happens. Now the cycle will start with menstrual flow, that is it will last for 3 to 5 days, and this is caused because of the breakdown of endometrium of the uterus. As I told you, the endometrium will have a lining of blood here. If fertilization has not happened, this is going to break down and it is going to bleed. Now blood vessels in the liquid state are discharged, but this will occur only when the ovum is not fertilized, that is if you are not conceived. If it is followed by follicular phase, and now in this phase the primary follicles will get matured into the Graafian follicles. Now this is going to cause the regeneration of the endometrium. Again, if you this will be followed by the follicular phase again. Again the Graafian follicles will prepare themselves to get ruptured, and now the endometrial lining will again grow. Now these changes are brought about by ovary and pituitary hormones, and in this phase release of the gonadotropin hormones, that is LH and the FSH, are going to be at the peaks. Now this will cause follicular growth, and growing follicles will produce estrogen. The LS and FSH are at their peak in the middle of the cycle, that is the 14th day, and this is considered as the time of the best time to fertilize and cause the rupture of the Graafian follicles to release the ovums. Now this phase is also called the ovulatory phase, that is you can fertilize. Now remains of Graafian follicles will get converted into the corpus luteum, and this will secrete the progesterone hormone which will help in the maintenance of the endometrium. So progesterone hormone is very much important for the maintenance of endometrium, and in the absence of fertilization the corpus luteum will degenerate, and this is the one which is causing the disintegration of endometrium, and again the new cycle is going to start. In humans, menstrual cycle will cease to operate at the age of 50. So this is called the menopause time. As I told you, the beginning is the menarche and the end is the menopause. Now fertilization and implantation. At the time of coitus, semen is released into the vagina, and now this will pass through the cervix of the uterus and then ultimately reaches the ampullary isthmic junction, that is the end of the fallopian tube, somewhere around here. So now the ovum is also released at the same time to the fallopian tubule, and this is how fertilization will occur. Now process of fusion of sperm and ovum is called fertilization. At the time of fertilization, sperm will induce changes in the zona pellucida, and this will block the entry of other sperms. Now this will ensure that only worm sperm will fertilize one ovum. Enzymatic secretions of acrosomes will help the sperm to penetrate to the cytoplasm of the ovum. Now this will cause completion of the meiotic division of the secondary oocyte, resulting the formation of haploid ovum, that is ooted, and a secondary polar body. Now the haploid sperm nucleus will fuse with the haploid nucleus of the ovum to form diploid zygote. Now mitosis will start as the zygote will move through the isthmus and the oviduct, that is the cleavage time. Then this will form the 2, 4, 8, 16 series daughter cells, and this is the blastomeres, and the stage is called blastocyst stage. Now after 8 to 16 cell embryo, this will be called a morula, and then it will continue to divide forming blastocyst. The morula will move further into the uterus to get embedded. Now these cells in the blastocysts are arranged into an outer tropoblast and inner cell mass. Now the tropoblast gets attached to the uterine endometrium and the process is called implantation. So the tropoblast, which is lying on the endometrium, that is a uterine endometrium, will get fused into it, and this is going to get implanted inside the endometrium. Now, and this is what will lead to pregnancy. The inner cell mass will get differentiated to form the embryo. Now pregnancy, parturition and lactation. Pregnancy is after implantation. The tropoblast will form finger-like projections called the chronic villi. So they will be like this to hold upon the embryo, and this will be surrounded by the uterine tissue and maternal blood. So this embryo, this implanted blastocyst, will consist of maternal blood too. Now chronic and uterine tissue will get integrated to form the placenta, and this will help supplying the developing embryo with oxygen and the required nutrients, and this is also involved in removal of waste. So this placenta is the one which will help the baby receive, the fetus to receive the nourishment from the mother. Now placenta is connected to the embryo by umbilical cord, and this placenta will act as endocrine gland and produces the human chorionic gonadotropins and human placental lactogen, estrogen, progesterone and relaxin. So this is at the later stages, okay. So, and it will also produce an hormone called oxytocin at the time of delivery. So these are the hormones which will help maintaining the healthy pregnancy. So these hormones will support fetal growth, help in maintenance of a healthy pregnancy, as I told you, and hormones like estrogen, progesterone and cortisol and prolactin are increased in several folds at the time of pregnancy in the maternal blood. Now immediately after implantation, inner cell mass, which is the embryo, will get differentiated into ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm, which will give rise to different tissues again. This ability of inner cell mass is due to the presence of multipotent cells called the stem cells. Now these are the DNA cells too. Now most of the major organs are formed at the end of 12 weeks, that is 3 months of pregnancy, and during 5th month the limbs and body hair are formed. At 24th week the eyelids will separate and eyelashes are formed, and at the end of 9 months the fetus is fully formed and developed. Now parturition, hormone pregnancy has duration of 9 months. Human pregnancy has a duration of 9 months, and this is called the gestation period. Okay. At the end of this period, vigorous uterine contractions will occur, and this will lead to the delivery of the fetus, and the process is called the parturition or the delivery. Now parturition is neuroendocrine mechanism which is started by signals from the developed fetus and the placenta, which will produce fetal ejaculation reflex. So it is a neuroendocrine system where the signals are passed from the fetus to the brain, to the endocrine systems, to produce the fetal ejaculation reflex. Now this will cause release of oxytocin hormone, as I told you, which will help in delivery, from the pituitary, and this will cause stronger uterine contraction, the pains. Now this will lead to the expulsion of the baby along with the placenta, and during pregnancy mammary glands will undergo differentiation. Now the milk is produced and during the end of pregnancy. Now milk produced during first few weeks of lactation is called the colostrum. This is the one which consists of many antibodies which will help the baby develop resistance. So it consists of antibodies, and this is going to aid the newborn to develop antibodies by itself. Thank you.